right, we're going live. We're going live. Woo! Right after I had two massive sneezes, let's make sure that everything is working out just fine. The audio is all good. Yes, there we are. Audio is coming through nice and crisp like. So, good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are at. Hope that you are having a fantastic time. And oh boy, we got the trailer for the pilot of Knights of Guinevere, but we also got the release date announced for the pilot. It's coming in 3 weeks. This is nuts. There's a lot going on, a lot to talk about. Say Knights of Guinevere will kind of dominate our attention this evening, but we also have a writing lesson, which will be about how to present and condense your stories when you're talking to other people and you're like, "Hey, I'm a writer. I do stuff," and they're like, "Sweet, what do you do?" Everyone always freezes. Everyone always wonders what on earth you should say. And so tonight we are also going to be covering that. Arts is here. Hello. So is Jake Branch. We got ISO and Tyler Goodman. Talking about saying, I love that this trailer is a big FU to Disney. Oh, it is. And we're going to be getting into that. And here's the thing. It's not just Disney. Dana also took a huge pot shot at Warner Brothers. But it's way more subtle than the jabs at Disney. ISO, steampunk, Renaissance, dark fantasy, interesting. Oh yeah, say the steampunk, BioWare, BioShock vibes that we've got going on here is just exactly what the doctor ordered. Art's finally made it for once. Oh, hey, but you made it, and Wonder is here as well. Woohoo! Hey guys, yeah, it's actually thanks to Wonder's recent contributions over at our Discord that we're actually doing the lesson that we are doing this week tonight. So what I want to hear from you guys before I just start running off into the wild blue yonder with all of this Knights of Guinevere stuff, I want to hear from you guys in the chat. What did you think of this trailer? What do you think the story is going to be? Because what's really remarkable is just how under lock and key the details are for this show. Like I went looking this morning, this afternoon, trying to find anything, and it's incredible how sparse it is. So I want to hear what you guys think, because I got into a long discussion on Discord, and I think that we're going to get as many interpretations for what's going to happen as there are people present. So please share your thoughts and ideas, your theories in the chat. It gives me a chance to quickly take a drink of water, stay well hydrated. It's still summertime. Art says that it's going to be a new take on the princess and their role in the story. That'd be cool if we got that. Say I'm all for a new interpretation on the typical princess tropes. Grecoy says hi. Well, great to have you here, Grecoy. Glad you could make it. And yeah, we got more people popping on in. This is fantastic. So I'll give you guys some of my thoughts as you're writing down your own. Oh, we got HC Animation say, I love that it's fantasy and sci-fi horror. I can't wait for all the creepy moments in the show. Yep, thanks for commenting, HC Animation. I am really excited to see how Dana and crew handle horror, because one of the critiques that so many people lobby at animation is that animation can't pull off horror. But I think that it's more like it's harder to pull off good jump scares with animation. However, as we've learned from the Amazing Digital Circus, and as we get a pretty good hint of in just the teaser trailer and in the main trailer, it's very clear that animation can capture the feel of a good horror story. TV account, you're absolutely not late. We haven't even been on the air for 5 minutes yet. Uh, so no worries. T Count says, I think it's about the exploitive nature of modern Disney as a whole. Oh yeah, that's pretty much front and center. And I've got some stuff that to say about that, which might be a little bit shocking to hear from me, but I'll get into that once I've read what you guys have all had to say. Omega says, I see two plot lines where the blonde girl is caring for the princess, and the other has the main two characters to find her knights. All right, so it kind of reminds me of the style they use for the Animatrix. Modern Disney has gotten lazy. Oh, yeah, modern Disney is really lazy. They are so far from what Walt would have wanted. And I find it very interesting how there's obviously a Walt Disney figure that's already being presented to us, but one even has to ask, wait a second, is the Walt Disney like the big villain in this? Because paying attention to all of the little clips, I've got my doubts. I think it's going to be a little bit more sinister than just straight up Uncle Walt's the villain. Obviously, he's going to be the villain, but I think it's going to go even further than that. At least that's my hope. So what I think, this is right now currently what I'm thinking. And so my thoughts have evolved somewhat from my initial conversation on Discord this morning, where I was like, oh, I think that Guinevere is going to have some of the blonde girl in her. I think it's going to be a little bit more complicated and darker than that. So in the trailer we get some little flavor text, some lore about how the tower is guarded by strange technology that utilizes blood and fear. And so I was like, okay, then. I mean, this might be taking a little bit too far, but maybe like the blood of the blonde girl is utilized in the robot, and so the robot actually has part of the girl. And we see that blood is a big deal throughout this trailer. There's blue blood and then there's red blood. Lots and lots of blood. And what I think that this is meant ultimately, though, to hint to us is that no matter what you bleed, these characters are supposed to be considered real, living. And it's very likely that that this is not just some robot that becomes sentient, but that there's the elements of a real person inside of Guinevere. That's right now what I'm rolling with. But honestly, I think that we're going to be shocked and caught off guard with the pilot when it finally drops. HD Animation says, I love there's a moment in the trailer that makes fun of all the live action remakes that have been made recently. Yes. Yes, holy cow. The jabs against Disney are just, they're real. They're blatant. Man. Art says, is Guinevere perhaps the lost girl that perhaps inspired a group calling themselves the Knights of Guinevere? To account, how much are you going to bet Disney will try to ask YouTube to bury the pilot once it's out? So TV count first to you, there's a chance. I'm going to say it right now, and we'll elaborate on this later. Disney is going to hope that this just goes away. But if Knights of Guinevere performs on the same level as Murder Drones, it has to beat the view count for the Gaslight District. Gaslight District with over 19 million views, which is incredible compared to everything else that Glitch has done. It now comes across as far more small potatoes. But if Knights of Guinevere surpasses the Gaslight District and gets closer to the view count of Murder Drones when Murder Drones first dropped, Disney will take notice. And when that happens, they will try to pull strings to get this buried. And I also already know that even Disney critics that are really upset with Disney are also not going to like this show. which is kind of weird to me. Like it's crazy because Dana is going to get attacked from two different sides if this show does well. If it doesn't do well, Disney and even Disney's critics will actually bury this show and just be like, well, indie animation, you win some, you lose some. Dana Terrace, former employee over at Disney, had a bone to pick. Woohoo. Then move on. If it comes out swinging and has millions and millions of views within the first weekend, it is going to cause a firestorm, and it's going to be glorious. So I'll have more to say on that in a bit. Commoncraft, hello, what did I miss? Commoncraft, we have been on for just about 10 minutes, so you haven't really missed all too much. Glitch now has 16 million views. 16 million views or 16 million subscribers? Let's quickly... Yep, they just hit 16 million subs today. Woo, good for them. Good for them. And over 1.3 million views for their trailer thus far. So all really good. Now, TV Account asks an important question. Why exactly would critics of Disney not like it? So this is me kind of calling out certain channels, but at this point, I don't really care, and we're not big enough to really draw their ire. I think if I draw WDW Pro's ire, I will laugh. I will laugh so hard. Hannah Evans here. Hello. So, YouTubers like WDW Pro are going to not like this show. Even though he and his team are insanely critical of Disney and would love to see Disney as it currently is just burned down and Walt resurrected from the grave and bring back everything the way that they hope it would be. The reason why WDW Pro and his gang, which is actually pretty expansive across YouTube, they won't like it because Dana Terrace is a raging liberal out of California. Their people will immediately judge it just based off of the creator's political preferences. On top of that, there will be LGBTQ themes within the show. There's going to be people who are already going to be upset with that because, like, it's woke. It's woke. There's no way that woke can criticize Disney. It doesn't compute. Gah. And then there are also people, again, within that particular circle who believe that people like Dana are going to use 2D animation to promote adult values. And there's no way that cartoons are meant for adults. It's only meant for children. And really good animated stuff that's universal for the children will also be liked by the adults. But if it's not for the children, it's not a good show. And so if this does really, really well, again, if Knights of Guinevere performs at the same level as Murder Drones did when it first dropped, it's going to garner a whole lot of attention. Disney will want to bury it, and even certain Disney critics, because they have a different view of how Disney should be challenged, they will be really angry because you have someone who has a different perspective and political viewpoint than they do, will be challenging Disney. And on top of that, again, bringing in the LGBTQ plus themes and whatnot, it's just that drives certain people absolutely up the wall. And so if the show does well, expect it to get attacked, and not just by Disney, but by people who also don't like Disney. And I am very curious to see how that pans out. If that doesn't happen, woohoo, then I don't care. Then I've been proven wrong, and that's great. And hopefully the show is awesome no matter what direction it takes, or what kinds of stuff it has to say to criticize not just Disney, but Hollywood in general. But I definitely see this show having a massive impact if it does well. There's a tipping point in terms of animation that hasn't yet been hit, where people are like, okay, so a lot of people believe that 2D animation is in the rear view mirror. The future is 3D. But thanks to stuff like Lackadaisy, where Lackadaisy is steeped heavily in the 2D tradition, and now Glitch, which has been doing 3D animation this whole time, is now switching on over to a 2D show. If you have multiple studios doing 2D animation, and let's not forget that Visipop just started up an Australian studio for Spindlehorse that is doing Homestuck. 2D animation is coming on strong. And should this show do well, alongside Homestuck coming out and Lackadaisy, whenever they're able to drop their full season, it is going to mark in the minds of many that 2D animation is not dead, that it has a resurgence, and that 2D can also be done by indie companies and by indie creators, which is something that people just play down. They're like, yeah, it just kids in their basement doing stuff. Nah, it's not that great. It's not like Disney Renaissance. If this comes out swinging and does really well, it will take all those arguments and shatter it over its knee, which I personally want to see because I love 2D animation. And as Art says, 2D animation can exist along 3D animation. Exactly. 2D and 3D animation should live in harmony. And I agree with HC animation. 2D animation never died, in my opinion. I agree with that as well. 2D animation has always had a place. There's so many people who love it. It is a medium that isn't going away, but it's a medium that Hollywood would love to see dead and buried. It says there may be woke LGBTQ, but there's also like normal LGBTQ, which is what I expect this will be. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. And this actually, ISO, thanks for putting that down, because that allows me to kind of open up the door on a critique for Disney especially. Disney greenlit the Owl House because they wanted brownie points. At the time that it was greenlit, it was all the rage, LGBTQ plus everything. We need all of our shows and movies to have it because it's the hot topic right now. Rather than anyone in upper management, upper control of the company or any of these Hollywood companies, they actually didn't care. They could care less about proper representation. And it actually shows, because when the Owl House rolled around, the Owl House had really positive, very expansive representation of its rainbow community, and it did it well without shoving it in your face. Never once is there any episode that's all like, this episode is all about how this particular class of people have been oppressed this entire time and how you should all feel ashamed of yourselves. No, the show does a phenomenal job of making these LGBTQ plus characters just normal people within the circumstances of their fantastical world, being the Boiling Isles. And so, like, yeah, by the end of it, like, if you're upset that Luz is gay, that Amity is gay, that they're lesbians, it's like, well, that's really kind of a you problem, because for almost an entire season, it's just teenage girls doing teenage girl stuff. Like, it was great. You got to know these characters and come to love them before they began playing any of those cards. In fact, they never played any of those cards. They just treated all of these characters like real people, which is what you should do. That is good representation. Good representation treats these characters as actual people, not as checkboxes. But again, Disney wanted the brownie points, which meant that they wanted people to see that they had checked those boxes. And when the Owl House didn't do that for them, They're like, but Dana, we greenlit your show because it was meant to give us brownie points. And she's like, but I wanted to make a great story that would make you guys money. Money sounds nice, right? And they're like, but brownie points, our precious brownie points. And because it wasn't brownie points the way that Disney wanted, Disney gave the Owl House the boot. And honestly, I don't get why. I seriously and truly do not get why. Disney as a company really doesn't make any sense. And it's one of the reasons why I tell people, like, if you have the opportunity to work for Disney, don't. Go anywhere else. Anywhere else or nowhere at all is better than Disney, because Disney just uses and abuses their creators and just squeezes them for all they're worth and then throws them away without thanks. And then they take the work that their creators do and then they take a heaping dump on it. Like what happened with the Owl House, the disrespect shown to Amphibia, the way that, like, even though Gravity Falls is a juggernaut, that Disney still disrespects Gravity Falls. They even disrespected the DuckTales reboot, for crying out loud. That show was so flippin' beloved, and Disney didn't care. Oh, Disney. What a mess. Shouldn't we just judge the story on its own merits other than the fact that it's poking fun at Disney? Arts, exactly. And once I do the breakdown of the trailer, I want to get into my hopes and also my fears for this show. Let me catch up with some of the other stuff you guys have written right here. I know I missed some stuff earlier. Concraft says, man, this trailer really came in a bad time for me. I was not feeling well tonight. So seeing that the show is basically just a screw you to Disney and fairy tales in general gave me a bit of a bad taste. So Commoncraft, we'll talk about that because that's how it comes across. And I really hope that's not the case. So again, I will get more into that once we've done the breakdown. And I've already been having this discussion with other people who are like, no, I just want to see Disney roast. I'm like, but a revenge, writing a story out of revenge is not as good of a story as a lot of people seem to think. People seem to think that if they can get revenge through a story, that it's going to be super fulfilling. It's not. And in fact, we have history, even with very popular stories that prove that. And you'll be surprised when I bring them up. Who cares as long as it's a good story? Exactly, Arts. LMAO says, Hannah, not that I like Disney, but basing a whole show on it doesn't sit well with me. I also like fairy tales, and my first impression that the show was going to be Glitch's first wholesome did not go away yet. No, Glitch is not. Glitch is based all in on telling darker stories geared towards a young adult audience. And so that is how they approach that's how they approach all of their shows. If you wonder why their shows are so dark or why they go in the direction that they do, that's their premise. Tell darker stories that are accessible to young adult audiences. I says, I really don't understand how they can't understand that originality makes them money. It's got to be a conspiracy to take down creativity or something. Get your tinfoil hats out, boys. Oh, so ISO. I mean, if you want to put on your tinfoil hat, because I bet you look good in it, go on ahead. I can already answer that. The reason is that you have right now up at the upper echelons of Disney, of Marvel, of DC, of Warner Brothers, and I've been working on a video to take down Warner Brothers for sacrificing Villainous, because oh boy, there's a story there. There's an untold story there, and I intend to be the first YouTuber that will shine some light on what Warner Brothers has been getting up to. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's something that I intend to talk about more. But effectively, you have a bunch of leaders within these companies that were once upon a time very creative companies that now the people who are there they never got in there because they worked their way up through the corporate ladder of creativity. Almost none of these people started off as artists or as showrunners who politicked their way up the ladder, so that way they could one day have the control necessary to tell the stories that they wanted to tell. That was how Hollywood used to operate. But now you have these people who come on in who are like, well, I have so much money, I have so many connections, and I wish to be in charge. So they're in charge. Woohoo, you guys had a corporate takeover. But they're not creative, yet they're in a creative company. And there is pressure on them to show that they're one of those creatives, that they can make stuff too. And so what they do is they absolutely butcher the creative process by getting involved in everything way too much and implementing their view, their take on things without any understanding of how the creative process works to any kind of degree. And when they are told that something doesn't work, like, but I'm the boss, I have money, you will make it work or you're fired. And that's basically where we are. We got people who are in positions of power in creative companies like Disney and Warner Brothers who have no creative bone in their body, but want to be creative. And so they force people to basically guess what's in their head, which is never any good, and then utilize their power through control of the company and through money and through connections within the industry to force people to make what they think is the best kind of story. And so it's a mess. CDVA is here. Woohoo! Great to have you here. Guys, we're going bankrupt. Pander harder. I love that. Let's see here. Comicraft also said some of the quite beloved parts of the Owl House were parts that were imposed by Disney mandates that Dana did not want to do, in the way she mocked Harry Potter in the one episode about sports. That episode, at least to me, sounds like Dana's writing is like when she goes full spite, and I dislike it. There's also that line Lou said that sounds like complaint about Disney cutting the show short and wanting more episodes to goof off. But while the show was coming out, the goofing off was disliked by many watchers. The pressure of the plot put by having less episodes is actually quite liked by a lot of people. When it came out, it was cut short, from what I remember. So Comicraft, to address what you're saying right there, again, this is actually part of the conversation I was having this morning on Discord, that people tend to forget that the Owl House was dropping off in terms of popularity during the second season. And it was because the second season really started falling apart. It began falling apart because halfway through production, Dana was told, your show is getting the axe. This was after she was promised 3 seasons, with it even being publicly stated by a Disney spokesperson that they were in talks for, if not already greenlit, 5. Now then, imagine this. Let's put ourselves into Dana's shoes, whether you like her storytelling style or not. If you're in the shoes of the creative person, you're the showrunner, you're the main creator, you're the person who's in with all of the artists and all the storyboard people and all of the writers, coming up with everything. This is your baby. And you are told, oh, yes, we want X amount. We want 60 episodes to 100 episodes. And if you are told that, you're like, okay, then that's my contract for one thing. I am getting paid to deliver to you 60 to 100 episodes. That's a ton of work. That is years of your life. But hey, you're getting paid. You get to tell your story. Awesome. Now, after the first 20 or so episodes, you're excited because you've got so much more ahead of you. You've had the chance now to plan all this stuff out. And then the people that you were working with come along and say, yeah, no, you don't get to finish it. You get 40 episodes at best. And you're like, I just planned 60 to 100 episodes for you. And you're cutting me off? And they're like, yeah. So when Luz has the whole complaining, when Ida's like, don't you want to go to a beach, like have a beach episode? It's like, well, we would like to do that, but there's no time. That was one of the moments where it's like there was a real mask off. And basically it was, we have been promised more episodes, but now we don't get to do it. And you can tell because season 2 starts off really slow, and then it speeds up and it drops so many plot threads because it was doomed. It was a doomed show. And Dana hoped to basically guilt trip Disney into giving her a full 3rd season by ending the 2nd season with such a jaw-dropping cliffhanger. But Disney didn't bite. The reason why Dana got three specials to round off the Owl House, because that was never the plan. Disney intended to kill the Owl House at season 2. To my understanding, and until someone in the industry corrects me on this, this is what I understand. Dana called in every single favor that anyone at Disney owed her. And then on top of that, Matt Brawley, who at that moment was the wonder child for Disney. Disney loved Matt at that time. Matt basically went and groveled for Disney to give her another season. And so they said, okay, you then get 3 specials. And around the same time that Matt Brawley groveled, because he had thrown in his lot with Dana, that is when Disney leaked the episodes, leaked the season 2 finale for Amphibia, which derailed the hype. Disney purposely killed the hype around their own show just to spite one of their creators who threw his lot in with Dana. Like the pettiness, the politicking, the backstabbing, it was intense. So when Dana's really angry at Disney, that's basically why. Like if I were, for instance, contracted with, let's say, Tor, which I would love to have a contract with Tor, the publishing house. It would be like if Tor said, hey, guess what, Lars? We are going to publish your Whitefire series, the whole 6 books. I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you. And I write the first book. It's well received. I'm working on the 2nd book. And halfway through the 2nd book, then they're all like, hey, Lars, guess what? Guess what? You don't get to finish that series. In fact, we're also wondering if we're not just going to buy you out of your contract. But until then, no more Whitefire. You do owe us 5 other books until we buy you out of your contract. So get working on another book. Chop, chop, chop. Chop, chop, chop. Now, Wonder asks, is that factual or a theory? Wonder, that is an excellent question. The reason why I say I'm willing to be corrected by anyone within the industry, no one yet has, because according to Alex Hirsch, there is a 10-year minimum gag on every single employee who worked on these shows. They are not allowed legally to talk about anything that happened in regards to these shows until sometime in the 2030s. So we still have some time. And this is just basically me piecing things together from different Twitter posts that come from Dana and Matt, and things that were talked about that were lightly hinted at during certain interviews and live streams, again, involving Matt. Dana shut up about the Owl House. She hasn't said anything at all. And not just simply because of the gag order in her contract, her Disney contract, but also the moment that Disney screwed her over, she decided that she was not going to give any more energy than necessary to the show. And so she stopped talking about the Owl House unless she absolutely had to. And so once you see that happened and you start lining things up, you can start figuring out where the story probably happened and how it probably played out. It's messed up. Now Conquest says, I know Dana was screwed over, but what I meant was that many fans like Dana's writing only while under Disney restrictions and will possibly be repelled by raw Dana in spite mode. And Commoncraft, that is one of my concerns. I'll say this already right now. I think that it's very important who else is right now attached to this Knights of Guinevere. There are two other veteran producers of cartoons involved in the making of this show, which to me signals that not only is Dana bringing in a crack team to deliver a great show, but that I think Glitch also as well was all like, hey, if we're going to make this happen, we want as many people as possible who are veterans of 2D animation to be on board, and we want a really good storyboard team. This is the one show where they announced multiple people for the story and not just the creative lead. Gooseworks, Liam, Part-Time Seagull all have worked or are working with other writers and creators to make their show happen. We just don't hear about it in the immediate, but they are there. Knights of Guinevere is different because we've been told the team, not just Dana, but the team. I personally think, and again, this is just me thinking right here. This is just me thinking out loud. I could be wrong, but I think that Luke and Kevin were like, Dana, we really want to work with you. We also want to make sure that this works out. So we want you to make sure that there are other veterans of the animation industry in this project who are co-leads with you. And that is that is actually the bill for Knights of Guinevere. And again, I think that does come down to that Kevin and Luke are trying to make sure to hedge their bets because they want Dana, they want her story, but they also want to make sure that things don't fly off the rails. Because Dana has already shown, especially during the Owl House, that she's what they call a heads down brawler. Once she gets into a project, she just goes full steam ahead, punch, 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 which is good for getting something finished, but it's not necessarily good for creating an overall pristine and well done product. Which Glitch, Murder Drones. Like when we look at the way that Murder Drones ended, there was definitely a lot of sloppiness there, and I think that Kevin and Luke are learning as they go along. Like, yes, we want to make sure that we want to make sure that the shows that we tell that we make just keep getting better and better. And we love what happened with Murder Drones. It's still one of our most popular properties, but let's try to avoid the messiness that came about in the last episode of Murder Drones. And so that's what I believe is happening behind the scene. And again, I am not an industry insider. I only pick up clues. And so anyone within the industry who's in the know and who is able to say anything is perfectly free to come and correct me. And I'll be happy because I will finally have the truth. Yes. CVA says NDAs are important, but they seem to screw over individuals more than not. Yes, they do. Too many NDAs these days are not made for the security of the project, but made to make sure that the company is in control of the narrative. And those are two very different things. It's okay to protect your company and protect your story. It's another thing to try to find ways of covering up blatant mistakes and just bad practices. All right, I'm taking another drink of water right here. Let's see here. There was something else that I was missing. TV account says, for me, I would like to wait and see if this is a grudge story or a really good psychological horror story. Might have to watch it with the lights on. TV account, that's also the boat where I'm in. I mean, not so much with the lights on. I think I'll turn the lights off for this one. Give me those good Higurashi vibes. But yeah, I am waiting to see what the show is like. I am not going to pass any judgment on it just based off of the teaser and the main trailer. Power Rangers said, Art says Power Rangers originally had 40 episodes in the first season, but they ended up with 60 due to popularity. Plans can change if the owner of the show sees money. Exactly, Arts. And we've seen also how Glitch, like as they make more money, immediately invest within the shows. Murder Drones just grew in quality as it went along. The Amazing Digital Circus has also improved in quality. And you'll love to see it where as a show goes on, when they're like, we see potential in it, put more love into it. Put the love into it. Wonder says, I don't use Twitter. So yeah, that's honestly for the best. I do my best to limit my Twitter use because it's just a cesspool of awfulness. The art community on Twitter is fun, but everything else... Concraft says, I hope that the other members of the team can rein Dana in if her grudge goes out of control, but who am I to judge yet? I just realized one thing. While it may not be an issue here, and it is not an ironclad rule, I read once that people tend to like darker tones during good times and lighter tones in bad times. I would agree with that. That's definitely a pattern across history. However, the 1970s might disagree with that because the 1970s was awful for a lot of people, and so the shows and the movies tended to mirror that. So a dark horror show about the horrors of the industries at such a turbulent time may be the perfect storm to not get a public that the show should get. Han says, gosh, the show is going to be intense, full of dread and cruelty. Or says, I find a lot of Deltarune stuff on Twitter, though. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of great Deltarune stuff on Twitter. Love it for that. Okay. Yeah, there was no Deltarune in the 1970s. Yeah, see, the 1970s would be better if Toby Fox just went back in time and gave them Deltarune. Okay. That being said, this is totally off topic, but I every now and then I like to entertain a daydream of mine of what it would be like. What would it be like to go back to the 1880s, 1890s, and do a musical theater piece based on Deltarune Chapter 1? Like, and just like, so if I could have all the music. And basically, you have got the pit orchestras like 1880s, 1890s. Everyone's coming with their stuffy dresses and stuffy suits with their little binoculars, and they come to the opera or to the theater, and they're all like, "So there's this Deltarune show by this Lars Jensen accrediting one Toby Fox. Toby Fox, what is this?" And then they watch it, and then they get to hear the music, and you then have people dressed up as Chris, Ralsei, and Susie. Like, how would people in the 1880s and 1890s take a dragon girl as one of the main characters, waltzing around, and the humans got to become friends with her, and there's the subtle and sometimes implicit tones of a romance. Like, how many of them would be like, a human with a dragon girl, fainting, and then they would go home, and then all of these repressed Victorian era people are all like, actually, that sounds really good. I'm gonna write some horror. Like, you get horny 1890s fan fiction of an opera based on Deltarune. Not to mention the deer lusting after the dragon. Oh my gosh. Yeah, have an open lesbian in the 1880s. Yeah. Oh, that would go over so well. Art says Doc Brown went back to the 1880s. He could bring Deltarune with him. I would love to see that. Maybe that should be a story I write in the future of what it would be like to go back to the 1880s and do an opera of Deltarune. Wonder, oddly specific daydream. LOL. Oh, Wonder. I have really crazy daydreams, very vivid stuff. It's not like, oh, wouldn't this be nice? If an idea comes to me, I run with it. And there's some great orchestral renditions of the Deltarune soundtrack that are just amazing. Like they did so well with adapting Toby's soundtrack that I would love to see what that's like performed on the stage. Conquest says, gotta remember that there were myths and stories in the past about people with dragon heritage and people turning into dragons. Yes, going back to some of the old Norse mythology, even while the Greeks didn't have many dragons in the way of their myths, the Greeks did believe in people changing into snakes. Marty, we need the Deltarunes to power the flux capacitor. Doc, I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh boy, we need so many lancers. We need 88 lancers. Okay, so let's start breaking this. Let's start breaking this trailer down. I have an edit of the trailer where we'll watch through we're gonna watch through the trailer uncut. And then I have isolated frames or moments that I want to take just a closer look at to show, like, okay, so like this is going on, and this is kind of messed up, or this is very interesting. What might we learn about the story from slowing it down or stopping it for a moment and taking a good look? Hey, there it is. Why is there some sort of phenomena in the future that increases the Earth's gravitational pull? All right. So
once upon a time, and this was a very long time ago indeed, there was a princess trapped in a tall, tall tower and locked away by complicated machines.
No worry,
that
Conrad.
ran
Thank
on
you for showing
blood
up.
and fear. Will she ever escape? Will she ever find her knights?
Oh, why hello. Didn't notice you there. Come closer. Meet some very good friends of mine.
it's all the same person. Yeah, very, very cyberpunk. Say, yeah, the cyberpunk vibe story kind of lets you know what kind of a story we're getting into. And so kind of bearing that in mind, we might be able to parse out a little bit better what kind of a story is being presented to us. Now, again, there's very, very little information that's been made publicly available about what the show is even about. There we are. So actually, let me pull this back. Pull this back right over here. Okay, so Anime says, not gonna lie, the CEO looks a bit off. Yeah, a bit off. Also, there was a little bit of a syncing issue with his words and whatnot, but whatever. Hopefully they fix that when the episode fully premieres. So, oh crud, I derailed myself by addressing that. But thank you, I'm Omega. So, because we have an idea that this is going to be very cyberpunk-ish. I mean, it's all over the place. It's got extreme cyberpunk vibes. What little information has been revealed to us is that we have a theme park planets, or a theme park that's almost the size of a planet. A little bit hard to tell if it's an entire planet that's been converted into a theme park or if it's just a huge theme park. In any case, you've got the entertainment company that controls this theme park. And you have two workers who are trying to climb the ladder. They're trying to make it big, and they discover a Guinevere. And they're like, this is our ticket to the big leagues. But as the synopsis for the show says, it could also lead to their deaths. So, with that in mind, we'll take that information, the cyberpunk feel, and we're going to have a look at this, and we'll see what we can glean from the trailer, and if we might be able to ascertain what the story could be like. Because, we've been given precious little. Now then, the Knights of Guinevere opening right here with the copyright, MMXXXV glitch. Oh, V? V? Where's V? This right here is something that, again, people are obviously pointing out how this is riffing on Disney. This particular look is not so much a riff on Disney as it's actually a riff on Warner Brothers and MGM, because this is the feel, this is the look for their openings. ISO's off to the fair. Hey, ISO, you have a great time at the fair. I hope it's awesome. Especially if there's rides. Jump on as many rides as possible. Live the dream for me. All right. So yeah, when I look at this opening right here, this tells me that this is not just simply a dig at Disney. This is a dig at Hollywood in general. And in fact, we actually get a feel for that as we look at the next few frames. Eat the fried dough first. No, don't eat the fried dough first. You eat the fried food after you've gone on as many rides as you want to, because otherwise you get sick on those rides. Unless, of course, you want to be a living barf cannon, then I guess that's one strategy for enjoying the fair. All right, so we get a glimpse of a part of the theme park. This is before it turns on. We got one of the classical rides, pulls you on up, swings you around really high up. Half the experience is being a barf cannon, Lars. If you say so. So we got the theme park vibes going on right here. This is actually an interesting aspect right here, because what you see right here, obviously this is meant to be part of the theme park. However, if you've ever seen any of the backlots for film production, this looks like a Hollywood production set. Again, it's very likely part of the theme park, but you get this feel. You just feel like, okay, yeah, I see. So I see the studio highway, I see the construction, I see the sets that are being built, where people will be able to move on through and everything. It has a very Hollywood feel to it. It's not just meant to replicate a theme park. I Omega, wait, does the 1 hour period after eating applies to rides? It depends on your metabolism. I've got a slow metabolism, so I got to watch out. I don't eat anything for at least 2, maybe 3 hours before I go to a theme park or to a fair. So that way I don't have to worry about it. I can go on as many crazy rides as I want and my stomach is empty, and I only stop doing rides when I've done all the rides I want to, or when the hunger is just way too much and I eat a light snack and then get back on rides again. Art says, when I went on a ride I shouldn't have, and then ended up feeling like my stomach was turned inside out. That happened to me when I did a centrifugal force ride, one of the ones where you don't have really any protection. There's a little wimpy rope placed in front of you, and then it's just inertia. As the disc spins, the G-forces keep you in place so you can't move. That ride is always tons of fun, but yeah, I still had some food on my stomach from lunch the the most recent time that I went on that ride. So I felt like my stomach was about to fall out through my mouth, and I was like, oh, I'm dying. Too many upside downs. I love the upside downs, but yeah, you got to make sure, at least for me, I've got to make sure I don't have any food on my stomach. Gregory says, my top rule is to use the bathroom before stepping into lines for a ride, especially if the line is long. Yes. If you're running into a long line, you got to go use the restroom beforehand. For anyone who goes to like Walt Disney World, the Avatar ride is fun, but it is not worth the 4-hour wait. Holy cow, there's so many other rides you could go on that are way more fulfilling. It was a fun ride, but not worth 4 hours. All right, so then we got our next little shot here of the theme park, and this is just all good gloriousness. We've got our statue of Guinevere, framed by the setting of the sun, and all of just these beautiful spires. It's beautiful. This looks like a place that you'd want to go to. And I like the grainy filmness that's been layered onto this. The feel of like an old VHS tape or an old reel of film. Again, it's meant to evoke those ideas of stuff from the past. And while, again, this is obviously very Disney, if you know your history of Hollywood, this is not just Disney. This right here, this is also very Universal Studios. This is very Paramount, Sony, and Warner Brothers. Like, you can just see all that iconography right here. However, there's also something to bear in mind. Like, I actually really hope, really hope that Dana's pulling some inspiration from Metropolis, because when I saw this, I was like, wait a second. This looks way too familiar. So I don't know how many of you have ever seen Metropolis before. It's definitely worth checking out. Metropolis is about this city that basically has given up its humanity for this techno cult that's taken over, and it's such a bizarre, wild ride. It's something that has to be experienced. The whole movie is basically geared around it's basically a fever dream, or a fever nightmare brought to life of what will it be like if technology overwhelms humanity. Art says, was that the Metropolis with Adam Driver? I actually did not know that Adam Driver was in a remake of Metropolis. This is absolutely news to me. I can't believe I missed it. But you know what? That's probably where this image came from, because trying to find the image of the woman all like decked out and amazing from the original 1920s film was surprisingly hard to find. So I found this and I was like, screw it. I'm running out of time. I got to put this in. But definitely, like, here's like, if any of you are wondering what Knights of Guinevere might be like, I would not be surprised if Dana and company are drawing some real inspiration from Metropolis, which again is about humanity being suppressed by the ascension of machinery, of robots, and that people lose who they are because of the advent of technology. And if we come from that particular perspective as well, combined with a certain sense of cyber punkness, then I think it starts making a little bit more sense, maybe what the story could be. So it's Megalopolis, not Metropolis. Okay, that would explain, because when I looked up Metropolis, I got Megalopolis. I'm like, what the heck is Megalopolis? I'm looking for Metropolis. Metropolis, my good Google. All right. So continuing on, we got the beautiful moment. I've got this a little bit here on loop. Whoop. Oh, I did. But so we've got the waltz character, the little girl holding hands. We got the classic Disney firework going on up. It's all bright and beautiful until we get to here. The change in color, the shading. We've gone from a dreamland where everything is fine and happy to this. To something way more dark and messed up. And this is where we get the flavor text, the dialogue about how this place is guarded by strange machinery, utilizing blood and fear. And when you look at it, it's just like the girl right here. She's so lifeless. She's so, like, her eyes are just vacant, even with the light flashing in there. Woo, wow, lights, pretty, magic. But the gaze is still dead. As she looks down upon a Guinevere that's just there, non-functioning, machinery going into her. Again, very, very cyberpunk feel. And it's meant to have this contrast of the light, the beauty, the hope, the dreams, the wonder, the imagination. That's something like Hollywood presents. But when you go then behind closed doors, the lifelessness comes out. When you see how the sausage is made, it's not as beautiful or wonderful as you once thought. I think that that's kind of the theme that we're supposed to get through how this animation is presented, leading then to a really interesting moment where the film burns away, revealing Guinevere as she's falling. And looking now very full of life. So here we've got then, here we've got a little shot of what it's like to be on this planet. And we've got Guinevere everywhere. And a lot of her posters have been defaced. We got a guy who's just there smoking as he's waiting for the shuttle to arrive. Graffiti everywhere. Whether this place is meant to look absolutely wonderful. Like, it'll be interesting to see how this actually is when we get to watch the full episode. If this is behind the scenes or if this is out in the open. I'm more inclined to believe, based on one of the other shots that we'll see later, that this is in the open. That when we get to this theme park world, we're going to see a theme park world that is crumbling, where the magic is gone. It's not even like, oh, it's a facade. Like, no, it's an open secret or an open scandal that this place is falling apart. So if it's falling apart, then why is it like that? Then what is it that Guinevere represents, or who is she that's so important that when the workers who find her are like, this is amazing, this is our ticket to the top, we're also discovering her could mean the end of their lives. What's happening? Like, we should wonder what's happening on this theme park planet. And then here we got another shot, another defaced Guinevere. We got a little bit of a Joker smile. We've got the fire and brimstone, the devil's pitchfork, the horns. So much for Space Puffs. Say, yeah, it's just like, yeah, no, just welcome to hell. For those of you who've watched Jaws, this gives me immediate Jaws vibes of for Amityville, for Amity, where it's like, welcome to Amity, and then once the first shark attack happens, some punk then goes and starts spray painting the billboard to say that there's a shark. It's like, welcome to hell. Now here we get a really interesting shot where this might be underneath the planet's crust. This could be underneath the city or the giant theme park. We don't yet know. Or maybe this is all under the open sky, and these are just really, really tall, hovering lab signs. But we've got this junk-looking ship. We got a little tugboat, either a junk transport or a tugboat, going into the dirty sea and then headed off for these labs. Well, now that's very curious. So when we stop it right here, like, okay, so we've got the whole theme park poking fun at Hollywood, especially at Disney. It's all run down. But now when we see this, it's like, this is way more, way more ominous. Like, why do you need labs on a theme park planet? And we've got labs 6, 7, 8. We got 9. It looks like there's a number 4 way there in the back. So yeah, that's yeah. I don't know what's going on here, and this is super intriguing. Why do you need to have labs on a theme park planet? Is this the research and development arm? If so, why do they need to have giant lava lamps? It's just what's going on. Oh, there's actually, okay, I do need to actually bring this back. Wait, is it right here? Maybe it wasn't right here. There's a shot where where you can see a poster that said, actually, no, it was not in the trailer. It's actually part of the promotional material. There is a little flyer that says blue lungs getting you down. Blue lungs? What's going on here? We've seen blue blood. There's a lot of blue going on. And then we see this. I mean, this is more teal, this color right here. But I think that there's that the whole reference to the blue lungs. Are blue lungs getting you down? I think that there's going to also be a little bit of a pollution element to this story as well, that it's dangerous living on this planet because of whatever they're doing. It's having a serious effect on people's health. Tyler Goodman says, this feels like a homage to Renaissance Disney movies where 2D animation movies are the only thing they watch. Maybe so. But we're gonna get to that, because as was pointed out by someone else, that there's actually a jab at the live action remakes, which is pretty great. We'll get to that. So here we got the factories. So again, there's definitely a pollution element to this story overall. And so when it comes to like, oh, is this just going to be poking fun at Disney the whole time? There are hints that this isn't just simply, oh, we're going to tear into Disney. Disney sucks. But there's definitely jabs at not just Disney, but all of Hollywood. But we're getting the cyberpunk feel. We're getting an environmentalist angle. And then we get to some really, really creepy stuff. So here we got the girl from earlier. She's pulling on this cord that's dripping with blue blood or some kind of blue ichor. And as we're going to see, it's not just any kind of cord. It's basically an umbilical cord. And for those of you who haven't yet taken Human Anatomy 101 or anything like that, the umbilical cord is the cord that connects the baby to the mother in order to receive all the nutrients. When the baby's born, you cut the cord. Well, what we see here is that one of the Guineveres has this cord attached to her stomach, which is not being pulled by the Walt Disney figure, but by the little girl, and framed right here against the backdrop of the park. What I think, and so this is where I start rethinking some of my story. Some of my guesswork for what the story actually is. I think that we're going to get a bit of a flashback of what this place was once like, where it was this amazing utopia of just creativity, entertainment, of fun, of wholesomeness. But behind the scenes, there was something very dark going on. And one of the Guineveres, one of the machines, was being tormented. What exactly is going on here, we don't really know. And there's not enough context for me to really say anything definitive. But based on that, we see multiple times a Guinevere falling. It's very likely that this robot was being abused For what reasons, we don't yet fully know, but this robot broke its chain, broke off its cord, its connection to life and to the people who run this place, and fled. Ended up in the garbage before being discovered by the mechanics, who are also part of the main cast, and who then start bringing this Guinevere back online. And when they bring that Guinevere back online, this Guinevere has knowledge of the park, of what's really going on, and probably has access to even more knowledge about why this cord and the blue ichor are so important. What's actually happening in the labs. And because we've got cyberpunk and some metropolis elements here, what this would then tend to, well, it's not what this tends to, but what this would hint at is that this Guinevere, at least, or maybe all the Guineveres, have a human element to them. Either replicated, stolen, who knows, but there's a human element to them that's being controlled by these people. And that if one should be cut free, we then get to see what that Guinevere could actually become. That's my guess. That's my guess right now. Now, things get a little bit silly and dark with this next one right here. Look at that. Look at that little paw, a little puppy. Look at this little police puppy right here. That's projected onto this guy's screen. So it's like, hey, here's a happy face as you're arrested. Here we have a beggar who is being arrested at the docks. He's got a hungry sign. He had some coins. He's been arrested either for being where he wasn't supposed to be, for being homeless, for begging, maybe because these guys are just jerks. Who knows? But this reveals an even darker, more personal element that even people in a poor condition are oppressed on this particular planet. And it's ridiculous that the individuals who are doing this, the police force who are doing this, have these cutesy little icons projected on their screens. And again, reinforcing the environmentalist angle, they are completely covered. Well, this guy isn't. The guy on the ground isn't, which would tend again to suggest that there is something in the atmosphere, something that's happening on this planet that's very unhealthy for regular people. And the police force is being kept safe by the equipment that they are given. Also, a gun. Look at that. Give them all guns. All right, everyone will just shoot each other. Cue Kane. Here we got one of the sailors. There he is, smoking away on his vape. He does not look like a healthy individual. Again, I feel like this is all part of maybe the more environmentalist bend to this story. And we've gotten hints about trash collecting. Because he looks like a sailor, he might be either the skipper or one of the workers on the tugboat that we saw headed off to the labs. That's just right now conjecture, but it's just guesswork. But that's probably what's going on with this particular unhealthy-looking character. And then here we've got the Guinevere being pulled out of the garbage. And she does not look good. She's missing all kinds of parts. She's absolutely busted up. This is probably when the mechanics come across the escaped Guinevere. And she absolutely does not look good at all. And they're like, oh, we can fix her up. This is prime material right here. So we'll see what's going on here. Because again, we don't have the context to understand why it would be such a big deal for these mechanics to find a Guinevere in the trash. Because as some other people have pointed out, the people in charge of this theme park planet should have control of all the Guineveres, and are they just like, oh, give us back our property? But wait, if it ended up in the dumpster, how did it end up there? And how did you guys not know it was there? And for these people who find it, if it's such a big deal that they are not allowed to have a Guinevere, they would probably be rewarded for returning this model. But no, they decide to take her in and work on her. So, questions abound. And then here we've got here you have another shot. This is most likely, again, when we look at this right here, this is probably indicative of the entire planet, that this is not just some behind the scenes stuff. Because here we've got this noble monument to Guinevere. It's meant to be out in the open, in a town square-ish area. It's very clear that this is a monument that's meant to be looked up to and revered. However, people have absolutely defaced her. They have drawn on her. They've slapped stickers. And no one is... And you can tell by the demeanor of the people over to the left that no one really cares. This is just everyday life. So Guinevere is not getting the respect or attention that she deserves. Maybe. Again, this falls more under the lines of this world is falling apart. There's the environmentalist angle. And if we think along the lines of Metropolis and steampunk, Metropolis and cyberpunk, this is a monument to what people would think you could do with humanity and technology being combined, but the dream has died. It's shattered. And now you're left with what's left over, a dying world. I tried to blow this up a little bit, but couldn't really get good details. And we get this ominous bit of the Walt Disney figure coming in to see the little girl, who again is just so dead-eyed and just this really creepy environment. And then here we've got the Guinevere tied again to the umbilical cord, who has jumped. She threw herself off the tower and is falling. And we've gotten to see again, there's plenty of moments of blood, of blue ichor especially. But for this particular part, it jumps back and forth, frame for frame for frame for frame for frame. And it never stays any longer than one frame on either one, but you have her jumping, and then you have the blood. The blood that's falling and is pooling down there at the bottom of the screen. What exactly is going on here is, well, hard to tell. Again, we don't know. We're lacking context, but I think it's very significant that the show's trailer calls significant attention to Guinevere jumping, the connection to the umbilical cord, the blue blood, and then here we have red blood. Also, can I just for a moment here say that Glitch they are absolute mad lads. So think about this. From murder drones, they got away with gratuitous violence because they're killing robots. And it's not blood, it's oil. Hey, it's funny, it's oil. For the Amazing Digital Circus, no one ever dies. The most we've gotten is Ragatha's fluff getting shot out of her by Jax and then Pomni puking. But in terms of gore, very little. There's loads of gore in the Gaslight District, but again, the Gaslight District is involving monsters, not real people. Even even our one lone human she doesn't look human. And so as a result, no one's censorship is gonna be it's all cheesy violence, good PG-13 violence, whatever. Here we've got a flow of actual blood. Glitch is pushing the boundaries with this, and I'm personally all here for it. Because again, going back to some of the other shows that have been on there that have been on before, Spider-Man from the 90s had blood. Gravity Falls, its first season finale, has Dipper with a bloody nose after getting punched by Gideon, after being thrown by Gideon. And it's blood has been in animation before. There's just usually so much censorship around it they try to block all that stuff out. Because Glitch doesn't operate under the same industry guidelines, they're allowed to get more graphic. And so, yeah, red versus blue blood, say, Grecoid, we are meant to have that comparison. Blood, two different kinds of blood. One we obviously recognize as human, or more human, which is supposed to be red, For Guinevere, it's blue. But what I think, and this is what I think that the intentionality of having those two frames constantly flip flop is that it's meant to get us thinking that this Guinevere is alive. She may not be fully human. Maybe she's not even any kind of ways human. But she is alive. And that's going to be very important for her story going forward. That particular distinction. So here we got our Walt figure. Whoop, I pause back a little bit right there. Portly Walt Disney. Very clearly, again, this is an obvious jab at Walt. And what I find interesting is he's like, I've got some friends for you to meet. And it's all variations of Guinevere. And effectively what we're going to see is that like this is just basically IP taken to the extreme. There is no innovation or creativity. Rather, it's all iteration. Iteration is attacking a problem multiple times, multiple ways in order to find the best way forward. And iteration is basically looking at ways to be more productive, be more precise and concise. Whereas innovation is messy, it's experimental, it's extreme. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it takes a long procedure to make something work, to make something come together. And so what we see here is the contrast between innovation and iteration, because this is all just Guinevere. There's nothing different. We got the live action Guinevere up there in the top right. We got our more anime Guinevere over there in the middle right. We've got the Guinevere show. We've got Guinevere websites up there in the top. We've got this beautiful Guinevere show. More Guinevere live action. Your Guinevere merch over in the middle left. It's just all Guinevere all the time. Kind of like Mickey, Donald. Absolutely in your face. And in a way, you can kind of rib glitch a little bit, like all your iterations of Pomni and of all your iterations of Uzi and N and V. I mean, we changed them into cats, into crows and dogs. We merge characters together. Iteration. Where glitch though is very different from the rest of Hollywood is that they're clearly innovating. Yeah, so I tried to blow this up a little bit. Didn't work out all too well. But here, oh boy. So what we're going to get for the last part of the videos as things kind of move around really quickly, a lot of stuff changes. So let me break down some of the stuff. There's so much going on. So starting in the top left corner, so we've got Guinevere stripped down, but very much alive. This is probably her after being brought back by the mechanics at her very beginning, like, oh, congratulations, you're alive again. The smashed Guinevere that we see in the upper middle is likely Guinevere after she fell from the tower and crashed and went splut. She's broken. She's done for now. There we've got the dead-eyed girl from the tower in the upper right. Then we've got Guinevere going crazy out on the streets in the middle left. In the center, here we've got Guinevere being brought back by the mechanics. And this is from the teaser trailer where all of the blue ichor is just getting sprayed everywhere as she's violently thrashing about. And they're like, we're losing her. As she's maybe being reactivated, maybe being saved. We don't really know. In the middle right, we have her in the garbage with her one eye peeking through all of the stuff that's been heaped up on her. As we're going to see, she's then discovered. In the lower left, we've got, again, just the spray of ichor. We got what looks to be the umbilical cord. in the lower middle, in the bottom middle, we have a close up of Guinevere from the upper left, with how her hand is over her face and everything. This is her still kind of most likely coming back online, and then we get this. Then we get what's going to be a really, really creepy progression shot down in the bottom right, where, hey, it looks like Barney the dinosaur, who's hooked up to some machinery, and we're gonna watch this thing just rot and fall apart. It's really, really creepy. So with that then set up, let's then move into our next shot. So everything flashes, and then we then see how all the imagery begins changing. So beginning at the upper left, we got the two mechanics who they're having an argument with someone. One says it looks more like a hippo, not Barney. Yeah, it probably is more of a hippo, but I instantly got Barney vibes. In fact, speaking about that again, we already see him rotting. We get to see the blue ichor coming out of its face, and it's just, oh, it's so disturbing. We then got most likely in the upper middle, probably the captain guy that we saw earlier, missing an eye. Well, that's creepy. We still got the dead-eyed girl. Still have Guinevere going kind of crazy. The middle part has been now swapped out for the title. We have one of the mechanic that's in the bottom center there, drawing near to Guinevere. She's in the trash, gazing into the glassy eye. And things still continue to change. Things go away. We then get a shot. So moving away then from the spilled ichor, we then get to see the dead-eyed girl right next to Uncle Walt, still holding on to the umbilical cord. When we then go on over to the bottom right, we see her hand covered with the blue stuff, with the blue blood, holding on to the cord. It is just, yeah, really, oh my gosh. Whew, it's just such messed up stuff going on here as everything else starts fading away. Yeah, I just then put that onto repeat. So it goes from all happy to then demented, and then things all start blacking out. Focusing then last of all on the girl holding the cord, that connection to Guinevere and where she once came from. Again, I would argue that I think that what it is that it's suggesting that for this story, the Guinevere that they find does not remember who she is. And as they bring her back online, it's going to kind of be a born sexy yesterday is not the right way to put it, but it's going to kind of come across that way, where you've got a character who is revived, who is super capable, super hot, quote unquote, that everyone is after. And this person is going to be ignorant of everything that's going on around them. But as the story progresses, they then receive all the information that they need, and then they become the hero, usually the heroine of the story. And so that's probably the trope that is being set up here with Guinevere. I expect a take on Born Sexy Yesterday to be employed. I was wondering if there's anything interesting about this particular shot. Not really. It's just super creepy. And then wake up. Wake up, sheeple. Wake up. Wake up, Guinevere. Wake up, world. What the heck are we supposed to wake up to? What on earth is going on? We don't really know. And oh my gosh, it's fantastic. So yeah, that's my whole breakdown for the trailer, going frame by frame. And again, I don't really know what the story could be, other than my guesses are that, again, the mechanics find this Guinevere who escaped the tower, hit the ground, shattered, was thrown into the trash. Everyone thought that she was done and gone for, but when she gets brought back by the mechanics, as I said, it's a Born Sexy Yesterday thing where it's like, okay, we just have this awesome robot now in our hands. What are we going to do with her? And as they're trying to figure out what to do with this Guinevere that they have uncovered and repaired, that this particular model begins revealing information or doing things that get the plot rolling. And it will be a mystery to uncover who she is, why she fell out of the tower, what is actually happening on this theme park world, and how is she the key to unraveling all of that. That is what I expect is going to be the general layout and procedural of this show. But again, we don't really know what the plot is. We don't know who the characters are. It's all just a bunch of guesswork. And so we are going to be going into the pilot largely blind. And I actually think that that's a good thing, because we will get to judge the show based on its merits and not based off of leaked material or a synopsis that immediately gives away something very important. But again, as has already been expressed, there's the fear that this could just be a revenge take on Disney by Dana. So Gregory says, based on what we saw in the trailer, could this Deadeye girl be Guinevere's handler? Maybe. Could be Guinevere's creator, or who knows? Who knows? But yeah, no, the way that she handles Guinevere is just disturbing. And we don't even know, like, is Guinevere just a robot? Is she a person that they treat as a person? If she's supposed to be someone treated as a person, we can tell from the trailer that she's abused in the situation that she's in. It's very dark. And yeah, so I'm fascinated. I'm excited for it. But again, it's been brought up, like, what happens if this is just all a takedown of Disney? And this is where I need to interject that could be the case. There's no guarantee that this show will succeed. And especially if it's just Dana trying to riff on Disney, it will not succeed. The reason why I say that is because people want good stories. A good story can tell a good revenge take or a good riff, but it must first and foremost be a good story. Some examples of revenge tales that are actually very prominent. Some of you might recognize them as revenge tales, maybe you don't. The first one is The Inferno by Dante. The Inferno is all a revenge trip. This is Dante ripping on everyone he doesn't like and doing it really, really well. The thing is that a lot of people who just read The Inferno straight don't realize that it's a revenge story because they lack the proper context, and they normally don't do the research to get the context. But The Inferno itself is a very interesting, compelling idea where Dante is given this journey to ascend to heaven and understand the nature of the universe. But to understand the nature of the universe, he must start at the lowest point. So he must go into hell, where Virgil escorts him and gives him the grand tour of hell and then of purgatory before handing him off to paradise, where he's then guided by Beatrice, Dante's teenage crush. Yeah, get that. Putting your teenage crush into your fanfic of Catholicism, where you also spend a third of your fanfic tearing apart everyone you don't like. The thing is that the overall story of the Divine Comedy, but specifically of the Inferno, of this journey to learn the true nature of the universe, is so compelling that that's what most people focus on rather than the revenge stuff. And Dante never allows his moments of revenge to supersede what the story is always about. And so as such, he gets away with it. An author, though, who didn't is George Orwell. with 1984. 1984 is Orwell getting back at Stalin. While a lot of people think of it as something that looks more at the fascist dictatorships of the era that he had fought against and had been a part of, and it's also super critical of the capitalist West, so much of 1984 is a direct jab and critique of Stalin's Soviet Union. But here's the thing. Orwell had no idea how to make that a compelling part of the story. So if you read 1984, all of the cool stuff is at the very beginning and at the very end of the book. Everything in the middle is a boring, tedious, philosophical, political slog. And that is where he's like, Stalin, you horrible person. I hate you with every fiber of my being. If I loved my wife with the burning passion of 1,000 suns, I hate you with the dying passion of 10,000 supernovas. And that's basically the middle of 1984. But because it's all just him ranting and raving and trying to rewrite history and getting back at Stalin, no one remembers the middle of 1984 because it is garbage. And it's garbage because that is where Orwell takes out his personal vendetta on everyone. It's his revenge tour. And it just absolutely falls apart. I have never once heard a single person praise the middle of 1984 because it sucks that bad. And that's in 1984, one of the most transformative books in human literature. The moment where Orwell becomes indulgent, that's the word. When a moment where he becomes indulgent in his spite is where he loses the audience. And the same thing also happens with the book The Jungle. The Jungle is a harrowing book. It's amazing. But the moment you get to the end of The Jungle, where it then gets all political, and then again, spite comes out, revenge comes out, preaching comes out, no one remembers how The Jungle ends. I remember because I thought it was the worst ending to a really amazing, horrifying story because it's so boring. Oh my gosh. So, what does this then mean for Knights of Guinevere? If Dana just gives in to riffing on Disney and Hollywood in general, if all of this is just a very elaborate, colorful, dark way of taking the industry and breaking it over her knee, while that might be fun to watch in the moment, it will not be a compelling or long-lasting story. Not at all. And you can even compare this, for instance, to something like South Park with the Panderverse, where they were making fun of Marvel and especially of Star Wars with all the pandering, going for brownie points. Only big fans of South Park really remember what the plot of it was. Everyone else was just there for the meme. And it was the story that actually carried it and made it really good and interesting. And allowed it to have its staying power rather than just a meme. And so Knights of Guinevere must be a compelling standalone story that doesn't just rely on tearing apart Disney. If they go that route, they will lose their audience. Now then, this is where some math comes in. So I'm on pins and needles for this show because I want to see how it does. I want to see I want to see the reaction that it gets. And I really do want it to succeed. I want it to be great. I want Dana to ride off into the sunsets and just it be an amazing, dark, cyberpunk story. Yes. But we'll have to see how it's received. Because again, coming back to the beginning, one of the beginning discussions that we had on the stream about 2D versus 3D, how the main storytelling industry, aka Hollywood, is moving away from 2D animation. If a 2D show like this does very well, it will make Hollywood question everything. And it will be in a special slap in Disney's face because it will have been made by a creator that they threw to the curbside and said, screw you. And so this is where then the numbers come in. So let's see here. Throw out to me some of what are some of let's start right here. Name the movies that Disney has released this year. Put them into the chats. And welcome back, Commoncraft. Put into the chat for me. What movies has Disney released this year? They can be Marvel, it can be Pixar, it can be Disney animation, Disney live action. But name for me the movies that Disney has made, and we're going to look up what their overall box office take was. We're going to do some math to figure out what kind of interactions it got, and I'll then show you what the threshold is that Knights of Guinevere has to reach in order to make the industry be all like, oh no. So okay, we'll use Wish. Wish didn't come out this year, but we'll bring up Wish because actually that's where this channel started actually blowing up, was when I did the whole like glitch for like the Amazing Digital Circus versus Wish, and people are like, you can't compare the two, and I'm like, au contraire, the numbers don't lie. So we'll have a look at that here in just a moment. So Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts. Okay, so I'm also gonna bring that up. Thunderbolts box office. Okay. And then Fantastic Four, First Steps, which I'm just going to say, I really liked the Fantastic Four movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Really cheesy, but I don't mind it being cheesy. It's just, it goes to show that Disney's lost a lot of goodwill, that this movie hasn't done as well as it probably should have. If this movie had been released back in, like, let's say anywhere between 2012 to 2016, probably would have done very well. It just goes to show how Disney has fallen. Okay, so we've got Fantastic Four, we got Thunderbolts, we got Wish, Lilo and Stitch. Anyone? Get some Lilo and Stitch in here. Lilo and Stitch 2025 box office. All right. Okay, so cheesy can work if it embraces it. Got to remember how people nowadays mock older superhero movies that try too hard to be serious. And I don't mind the superhero movie that tries to be more serious. I like the old X-Men movies, for the most part. I think the last movie's a dud, but the first X-Men movie with Hugh Jackman, and especially the second one, great movies. Honestly, great movies. And those took themselves way too seriously. It's okay to have a serious superhero movie, and it's also okay to have a very cheesy one. Guy that hates Bull says, "Hello, sir. I seen the trailer and I think it looked interesting." Awesome. Glad you thought it was interesting and that it wasn't boring. Oh man, if a trailer's boring, that's bad news. Okay. So let me make sure that I've got everything then set up. Like I said, we're going to have a look at some stuff. We're going to be doing some math. We're going to be doing a little bit of math here. So hold on tight. I am going to share my screen here. Share the entire screen. We're going to get the eternal swirl. And, okay, here we go. All right, so starting off with the Wish box office. Well, we're not just going to rely on AI. Let's go to the box office mojo. So its worldwide take was $254,997,360 at the box office. Congratulations to them. This was against actually a pretty hefty budget. But let me quickly it put into here. Was it again? It was 254, 997, and 360. That was its grand total. The as crazy as this might sound, especially because ticket prices to go to see the movies are super expensive, the average ticket price worldwide, speaking worldwide, is $10. So we're going to take the average, we're going to divide it by 10. That gets us to over 25 million people who interacted with Wish. So that's pretty good. Over 25 million people went to go see this movie. Chances are it's probably less because more people probably would have gone to see the movie over in the US where ticket prices are more expensive. We can again pop on over here. Well, actually, never mind. I take that back. The domestic was abysmal right here. This would mean that, especially where the ticket prices are more expensive, this means that less than 6 million people in the United States interacted with this movie. And whereas over 19 million interacted with the movie outside of the United States. And so yeah, there's your numbers right there. Okay, so we'll then clear that. And then let's take a look over here at actually real quick, just because it's fun, just how people are like, yes, Wish absolutely did bomb. So Wish's haul right over here is over 255 million worldwide on a budget. This budget was actually way more than 175, 200 million. It was well over 200 million, and they only take home 50% of the box office. That means that Wish lost Disney probably at least $100 million, if not more. Right here, the estimated loss is 131 million. It could have been even more than that, just based off of the available numbers. Yikes. Okay, then. So, Thunderbolts. What did Thunderbolts make? $382,436,917. So, I'm going to come on over here. 382,436. And just for funsies, 917. And again, taking the average price, which is $10, this gives us over 38 million people worldwide who would have interacted with this movie. Okay, then, better than Wish, and that's still a very respectable number, but nowhere made up for what the movie cost to make. Disney was not doing well with that at all. Now, let's have a look at Fantastic Four. Going over here, they currently have $492,990,615. Good for them. You divide that by 10, you get just a little over 49 million people who have interacted with this movie. Excellent, really good. Okay. Still, unfortunately, is a box office loss for Disney. If we look at the production, so that's all difficult for them. Lilo and Stitch, on the other hand, how did Lilo and Stitch do? I don't just want their rankings. I want how much they made. $1,032,090,876. Divide that by 10, you get you get right over there. You get over 100 million people interacted with this movie. Woohoo! Good haul for them. Over 100 million, fantastic. That's where Disney wants to be. That's a good threshold for them. So, with how Disney movies, though, have been performing all together, If, now then, so getting a little bit here into the math. If Knights of Guinevere can pull off 50 million views on YouTube, I know I'm just typing this out right here, but that would then equal, let's say it's well received, a lot of people watch it, you're probably looking at anywhere between like $3,000 to $4,000, maybe even more per million views. Let's just multiply that then by 4. So 50 times 50. So the 50 times the 4,000. Well, say congratulations. Wait, not 50. Say 50 times 4,000. You are looking at a very healthy intake of $200,000 if Knights of Guinevere performs that well. Compared to the millions of dollars that Disney's throwing around, that is chump change. But that's actually not the point. And this is something that I try to make a little bit more apparent to people whenever I talk the business side of indie, is that this is enough money to continue the project going and do well, especially with good merchandise sales. However, the big thing is the 50 million views. Again, this is just projecting. If Knights of Guinevere gets 50 million views, that immediately means that it has done better in terms of interaction than almost every major Disney property, with the exception of stuff like Lilo and Stitch and the prequel to The Lion King. An indie 2D animation has the potential to overthrow and throw down the king of animation, Disney, and also put to shame all the other Hollywood studios that have turned their backs on 2D. Granted, again, it's nowhere near the massive haul that it would be nowhere near the massive haul that they could make if they were a huge production studio and had access to all the resources and all the theaters and so on and so forth. But yeah, getting that kind of viewership would put all these studios to shame. What it tells them is that their multi-million-dollar products and stories are losing to well-told, cheaper stories. And this then begins to open up a whole other can of worms and discussions that need to be had, but I'm not exactly sure if we're ready to talk about them here quite yet. So let me catch up with what you guys have put here into the chat. Let's see here. Concrest says, I didn't say being serious is bad. Just that people nowadays mock the idea that not that long ago, okay, yeah, movie adaptations of cheesy stuff were afraid of not being taken seriously. And that's a very good point. Guy says, I watched some other Glitch productions. I think Amazing Digital Circus is almost a masterpiece. Gaslight District is cool. I didn't like Murder Drones. Okay. Guy that hates Bull. I liked Murder Drones, maybe because I watched other Liam Vickers stuff before Murder Drones. Yeah, if you're a fan of Liam Vickers before Murder Drones, you probably really enjoyed Murder Drones. And so, yeah, it's just that the interaction with his work probably helped to set you up for either liking it or not liking it. Guy says, well, it's Lilo and Stitch. I'd be surprised if it didn't do good. I'm actually surprised that for a movie that went against the central theme of the first movie that it did so well. But I guess just people wanted to see Stitch, and so they went and did it. Being a one-man team, yeah. Well, Liam Vickers, yeah, back in the day was more of a one-man team, though he did work with others when he had the chance. So there we go. So they're caught on up. So yeah, that's Knights of Guinevere. that's kind of the threshold that they should shoot for if they want to change things up. Now, this is me definitely getting speculative. And so, like, don't take my word as that this is going to happen. Not at all. Because again, there is no guarantee that the Knights of Guinevere is going to be a huge successful hit. None at all. But, sorry, my brain fart. There's no guarantee that will be successful, but if it is, it would come at a time where things are radically shifting. Indie creation is becoming way more accessible, way more acceptable, and at the same time is showing how Hollywood is really falling behind. That their creativity has gone out the window, but that other creatives are there ready to take up the torch. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, that I think that by the end of this decade, going into the 2030s, we are going to see a radical shift where indie animation and indie storytelling, indie publishing create opportunities for other creators to really go places that they will be just as acceptable as the mainstream, which people will then say, well, then they're no longer indie. But I think we need to reevaluate what we mean by indie. That in a day and age where everything is so controlled and monopolized, that indie basically means that you are not a part of the established system that has now taken control of everything, but that you are still playing within the sandbox of that industry. And that's where indie is going. And Glitch Productions, I don't know if they had ever thought that they would get to this point as a leader, but they are effectively now the leader. Thanks in large part to the Amazing Digital Circus and Gooseworks being so successful. But by becoming so successful, they now have the means to put way more love and care into other productions and give them a chance to really shine and show their stuff. 3D animation, indie 3D animation has really taken off. It's going places. And we've seen how creators like Visipop have done very well with Hell of a Boss and with Has Been Hotel. But the thing is that Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss are definitely more in the adult region that they get passed off. I've seen people, like when people are like, hey, look, indie animation is going places. And people are like, that's just for the adults. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. It does count. When a series marketed for young adults, people your age and my age, then comes on out, if it does very well, especially a 2D animation, if it does very well, it will basically be an announcement to the industry saying 2D is here to stay and indie can compete in a model that you guys have said for decades now is too expensive to last. We won't know the numbers of what went in to make Knights of Guinevere work unless someone has loose lips over at Glitch. But I believe, because they need to make sure that they are soluble, that they are making money, that they're profitable, that Glitch went into making Knights of Guinevere in such a way that it would not break the bank. And if it does well, again, if it reaches 50 million views, the first episode, it will have outperformed Disney. It will have made back they will have made back their investment on it. And it will send a message that will reverberate throughout the entire industry. That would be a huge sign to so many creators all over, indie and establishments, that the times are changing. And that if Hollywood wants to keep up, they need to change their game. I don't think that they can ever go back to the way they were before, but they can adapt, they can improve, they can become better. And that would be good for everyone, in my opinion. So we're gonna have to see what happens. Knights of Guinevere could flop. That is also a very real scenario. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see Dana succeed. I want to see Glitch continue to succeed. I want to see 2D reign supreme. We just got to wait 3 weeks now to see what happens. And I'm going to keep an eye. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the developments leading up to it because, especially around Dana, I want to see how excited and how open Dana is about this because she should be. And if it's different from her experience with the Owl House, I think that might signal something really, really good for viewers. If she acts the same as when she was over at Disney, that could be very telling. That could be very telling. And so it's just something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. We're going to have to observe and analyze as we continue on. Excuse me. TV Ken says, I still think that indie animation should inspire change in the industry, not replace it. Excuse me. And I agree with you, TV account. Art says, Gooseworks has the ability to meet the challenge, to be honest. To be honest, I've been amazed at the quality of their work on The Amazing Digital Circus. I agree. Wonder says, I hope I can stand out with my book. And Wonder, I hope that you can as well. I hope that you have a great premiere as an author when your book is released. Please let us know when it happens. I want to read it. I want to review it. Concraft says, it may be my current bad mood, but I am super worried that if Knights of Guinevere goes wrong or bad, it has the potential to screw the whole 2D animation comeback in the crib. So Concraft, I wouldn't say that it would kill the baby in the crib, but what it would do is it would set back the enthusiasm for 2D animation, and it would seem to justify the mainstream media's take on 2D animation. But let's just remember though that Lackadaisy is still coming. Lackadaisy will have its say, and Lackadaisy looks beautiful. Holy cow. I am so excited for Lackadaisy season 1. We also have other really great independent works that are being done by other creators that are 2D animation. And the only reason why they aren't more in the forefront is because, well, other shows dominate the conversation right now, and because they don't have the means to be as productive and as bombastic as Glitch. That's just the honest truth of the matter. But there's a lot of other 2D creators. If Knights of Guinevere flops, it won't mean the end of the 2D comeback, but it will be a variable that could set it back. Art says, I really hope Dana working with a new group will keep her focused on the job. Same here. One says, will do. Excellent. Excellent. Looking forward to your book. And Guy That Hates Bull says, I add a view to Knights of Guinevere. See if I like it. I haven't seen the Owl House, so I'll be introduced to the creators' work on that. Okay, then. And yeah, I think that the Owl House and Knights of Guinevere are going to be two very different beasts. Again, Knights of Guinevere is basically Dana Unleashed. So that could be really good. It could be really bad. We're going to find out. Comcraft says, I'm avoiding Lackadaisy stuff currently to get the Go Blind experience once it comes out. It feels like it has a lot of potential. Oh my gosh, it does. I'm so excited. I've got the comic books behind me of Lackadaisy. It is such a good story. Also, as a historian, it speaks to me because it is a actually very accurate take on the atmosphere of the Roaring 20s, particularly the darker side of the Roaring 20s and going into the Great Depression. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Even though it's all with cats, it feels so realistic. Say it's just love it. Love it. Okay. So, let's then shift gears to the last topic of the night, which is pitching your stories. Because that's pretty much everything I can say about Lackadaisy at the moment. More to say when it comes out. Oh, you better believe we are going to be doing a live stream and going into as much detail as possible. So excited. Congress says Lackadaisy is one of the few indie animation shows I saw that was more on the wholesome side rather than on the dark, sadistic, or nihilistic side. It is dark, but it had a bit of a feel-good vibe on it. Guy says, I haven't seen Lackadaisy. What should I expect from the pilot? Guy, check out the pilot. It's fun. It's over the top. It's jazzy. I personally really enjoyed it. It's a little rough around the edges with some of the animation frames, but it's just gorgeous to see 2D animation in all its glory and just so fluid. Comic Craft, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to slightly spoil not the plot. I'm not going to spoil the plot. I'm going to spoil the vibe of Lackadaisy a little. It takes a dark turn. It takes a dark turn because it realistically and honestly approaches the fate of bootleggers. Very few bootleggers went into that industry of making and smuggling illegal alcohol and came out on the other end happy. And you get to see as a lot of these characters get eaten up by this world. It's one of the reasons why I love Freckles and why I love Ivy. Because Ivy tries to put the positive spin on a lot of really dark things, and Freckles is trying to not get pulled into the dark world of bootlegging. He's loyal to his cousin, which is why he's there. And he's also there because he loves Ivy. So it puts him in a very interesting position. I love the dynamic with Freckles and with Ivy. I especially love what's happening with his character. Rocky's the main focus. Rocky keeps everything lighthearted. That's because Rocky is going insane with everything that's happening because he's trying to keep he's trying to keep the operation afloat by doing everything in his power to get the booze, but he is up against a vindictive, powerful, well-organized gang that the other people of his crew do not know the depths of just how bad it is. And Mordecai's betrayal of them all is just, it's deep. It's deep. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The thing is that the comic has a lot of really lighthearted stuff as well to kind of balance it all out. We'll see how much of that makes it into the show. And the show might go in a different direction from the comics. That's also a possibility. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. But it does get darker because, again, it's a very honest take on the life of the bootleggers. Getting spoilery, LOL, yeah. Say, again, I'm not spoiling any plot points. Like, I've given you guys kind of what the struggle is and, like, what happens to Rocky, but the things that Rocky goes through. Again, if you haven't read the comics, I am not telling you what should happen in the next episode. I hope that the next episode has the scene that I think it should have. If it does, it's demented fun. It's so Rocky, and it's so just like if you stop to think about what's going on, you're like, oh, that's dark. But it's so funny because it's Rocky. But the moment that you take Rocky out of the equation, you're like, oh my gosh. Oh, that's bad. And that's basically Lackadaisy. It's funny so long as Rocky is there. The moment you take Rocky out of the equation, you're like, oh my gosh. Now, taking a drink of water. Omega says, if you like shows in historical settings and indie animation, I recommend No Evil. No Evil definitely has the historical vibes going to it, though it may be more fantasy than history, though it's based on indigenous mythology with its characters mainly. And I do like that bend, and I also do like the aesthetic setting that No Evil has, set more in the Wild West, but not in the like cowboys and wranglers, but of the settlements of the West. Concrest says it was from the comics view. I hope the show takes a bit of a different direction. Dang, I was really looking for something feel good in the indie animation side that doesn't feel rough animation wise. Then I would recommend for you, Comicraft. Let me make sure I actually get the name of this right. Indie animation. Let's see, what's the murder mystery? The Art of Murder. The Art of Murder is a fun one, and even though it says murder, it's actually like, it's a really cutesy take on being an indie animator. The Art of Murder is really good. Another one that's really fun is Dungeon Flippers. The second episode is right now being worked on. First episode, the pilot episode, was amazing. Loved Dungeon Flippers, especially if you've ever played D&D. It's a joy. It's an absolute joy to watch. So yeah, Dungeon Flippers, The Art of Murder, absolutely good, fun, feel good stories that do still have their stakes, but they're good, really, really good. Highly recommend them. You mean The Art of Drones? Yes, The Art of Murder Drones. So Wonder says, when do we plan to get to tonight's lesson? The answer is now. So, finally shifting gears completely away from indie animation, pitching your stories. So, our goals for tonight are these. There's a difference between pitching stories to people to get your name and story out there and querying. We want to know the difference. Learn how to condense your story to a simple message and learn how to tailor your pitch to different audiences. Note, doing this will take time. This lesson alone will not make you a master at condensing your story in order to pitch it to other people or to just tell them about it, but it will give you the tools you need to confidently move forward. We want that confidence. All right. So, pitching versus querying. And I know it's a really weird word, but that's the word that the publishing industry uses. Querying. So technically, yes, when you pitch a story, you are putting it out there with the hopes that someone will buy it, pay you for it, so that way you get money to make it a reality. However, in the world of publishing, it's called querying. Querying is when you follow, and please bear note of this. Please, if you query your story, you must follow the guidelines that publisher or agent wants you to follow. Don't worry, Common Craft, just plug it on in and come back around when you got the chance again. But you must follow the demands for your query letter and your submission. If you do not follow the rules given to you, your story is immediately dropped in the trash. So make sure you follow the rules for when you query your story. Pitching, however, is slightly different, and at least in terms of publishing. Pitching is where you have more freedom to bring all your personality to bear, and you can wow people in your own way about how awesome your story is. However, pitching a story is much like comedy. You need to know your audience in order to do the best delivery. You can bring all of your best self, but maybe your best self isn't necessarily right for that particular audience. Maybe you got to change things up, or maybe just got to say, you know what? Maybe you're not someone who I need to tell my story about, because it's just, you're not going to like it, and that's okay. Nothing against you and nothing against me. So I don't have to worry about bringing that up. And yes, Grecoid Dungeon Flippers is awesome. So good. Now then, condensing your story for others. Most people have a very limited time and resources when it comes to stories that they read, watch, and enjoy. It's not that people don't want to give time to your story, but it's that they want assurances that it will be worth their time. Because if it's not worth their time, they'll be extra angry. I was just recently watching some videos about about one of the recent book talk dramas where someone was all like, look at my story, it's so great, everyone's going to love it. And thousands of people bought special editions before the book was even released. And then when they got their hands on it, they're like, this book is awful. This is so dumb. Ah! And so they were upset that they had spent their time and their money and their investments, emotional investment, on a book that ended up being garbage. And so people want to make sure that if they're going to invest their time and their money into your story, that it's going to be worth the return. And so when pitching your story, this means finding the most concise and best way possible to deliver your story in a way that resonates with your audience, or it resonates with your potential audience, that really pulls them in. And this is where, understanding maybe the back of a book, like the blurb on the back of the book, helps out the most. And so, even though I know this is really blurry, what I have right here, this is a copied image of the back of my book, Tumble Teller. This is 9x6, so not a whole lot of room, and I have to somehow hook people with this. So this is my blurb. Mikulirian has one dream: to become a tumble teller and wow the entire world with a story all her own. As an apprentice, she must complete her own solo performance to earn her tassels and ribbons. When her aging master gives Miko an unusual assignment, she believes this could be her big break. She swears her debut will be one for the history books. Legends living and dead will clash with intrigue, assassins, and secrets from the past on her stage. Mikulirian's journey to become the world's greatest tumble teller begins now. That is my pitch. Sweet and simple, to the point. Now that's my general one. That's for everyone to read, for everyone to see. But that might not always be the pitch that works for other people. For instance, and I'll get more into this, like if I'm talking to other writers, I'd say, this is a story about us as authors, the struggles that we go through, our dreams, our aspirations, our disappointments, the struggle that it takes to tell a good story. And I tell it through the perspective of a performing dragon. You're like, oh, that sounds cool. For people who are not authors who are just looking for a story, I'm like, so I've got the story for you guys, where there's a dragon who's a storyteller, and this is unlike anything you've ever seen or read before, because these dragons are seriously cool, all individualistic, and there's this one who really, really wants to be like a great bard, even though she's never called a bard, she's a tumble teller. She wants to be this great bard, and she goes on a solo journey to do a solo performance, and it turns out that performance is a cover-up for an assassination. And people are like, oh, dragons, assassinations, solo performances? That sounds cool. You're ticking all the right boxes. I love this. But I'm talking to someone who doesn't like fantasy, which I have. And I'm like, you might not like fantasy, but you like it when other people tell their stories, right? You like the process of people telling their stories. And someone might say, yeah, you know what? I do like to see behind the curtains. I'm like, as crazy as this might sound to you, this is a story about what it's like to tell stories. It's just told from the perspective of a dragon. And if you're okay with that, you might really enjoy this book. Give it a try. So Art says, I like the idea of keeping it short, but I tend to want to expand. It's difficult to keep that balance between short and long exposition sometimes. And Art, that's really good to bring up. Ultimately, you just pitching things really short is all meant to draw in people's interest. Because if someone wants to talk about your story, then you can just unload and start telling them even more. Now, let's have an example right here. This comes from Wonder, or as their handle is on Discord. Wonder what's next. So this was the pitch. This was the story synopsis that was given to us earlier this week on our Discord. And here it is for the story. Run, run, run away, lest the void which finds her prey. This childhood rhyme now echoes with terrifying truth for Julie. Fleeing a shadowed past, she arrives in bustling Onyx City on a desperate mission to find her missing brother Makoto. Her search quickly plunges her into a world of danger and corruption, where she finds allies in an unlikely group. Deacon, Colton, Tammy, Liam, and Haro, each soon discovering unforeseen Phoenixite powers. As monstrous drakes and nagas plague the city, Julie uncovers a sinister truth. Her brother's fate is entangled with Cersei Robinson, the ruthless CEO of the omnipresent Robin Corporation. Fueled by a fierce determination for justice, Julie transforms from a lone wanderer into the leader of the Skyrunners, a band of vigilantes. Their daring fight against Cersei and her powerful empire reveals a plot far grander and more dangerous than they imagined. Now, with the truth dawning, Julie and her newfound family must journey to her mysterious island. Can Julie and the Skyrunners unravel Cersei's plot and find Makoto, or will they be too lost within her schemes? So, this right here, this is fine. This tells you the plot, maybe gives away a little bit too much in my opinion, but that's okay. Tells you about some of the main characters, the Skyrunners. We got magic, we got plots, we got found family, we got to find a lost brother. All good stuff. This is really, really good. Now, depending on whether or not you want to put this on the back of a book, well, that starts changing up some things. Like Arts, like this is what you would definitely tell someone if you got into a conversation. This is good. This is like a good conversation piece. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But let's say you want to make it that more universal hook, something that you would put at the back of a book. This is where we must condense. We must make things concise, compact. So let's fit it onto the back of a book. Taking the blank cover to the back of my newest book, I was like, okay, again, 9 by 6. 9 inches by 6 inches, that's not a lot. And so again, this right here, this might even be too much for the back cover, all depending on what's happening on the back cover. There's a lot of artwork here, so you wouldn't want to overwhelm this with too much text. If it's more blank, more open, then you could get away with this much text. But this, after thinking about it, I'm like, okay, this is maybe what I might write down for the back of a book. A good hook a good hooking blurb at the back. Run, run, run away, lest the void which finds her prey. Because I really like that. Fleeing a shadowed past, Julie arrives in bustling Onyx City on a desperate mission to find her missing brother Makoto, who is in the clutches of the evil CEO Cersei Robinson. Her journey leads her to new friends, new powers, and new enemies, as she forms the Skyrunners to combat the city's injustices and dangers. Can Julie and the Skyrunners unravel Cersei's plots and find Makoto, or will they too be lost within her schemes? So, Wonder, I did not want to completely overwrite what you wrote because, again, I really enjoyed it, but I condensed it as much as I could to be kind of that hook. And if you were to pitch this to people in any sort of setting, already that sounds very interesting. You might easily grab someone's attention with this little short blurb. What you wrote previously, this bigger one, again, is absolutely fine. But if you're trying to get it out as fast as you can or slap it on the back of a book, then you have to condense. You have to bring it down to its most important elements. Now, me not having read your story yet, I had to, of course, take a few liberties, and like I might be wrong with how I condensed everything together based off of your previous blurb. This is what I could come up with that I felt was true to what you wrote and did not go too far afield, while still condensing it and trying to keep the vibe, the feel, the energy, and the intrigue of your original blurb. So this is what it means to condense. You got to do a little bit of wordsmithing, talk it over with other people to find out what works, what sounds really good, read it out loud. Because like me reading this out loud, I'm like, maybe it's a little bit wordy. Maybe I got to chop up that first sentence a little bit right there. But grammatically, it's totally correct. Hey-o. Now then, you must change your pitch, depending on the story that you're telling and depending on the people that you're talking to. Writing a compelling hook is one thing, but when you're talking to other people, you have to adjust based upon the person. Like, you've got to read the people a little bit. Do they seem interested? Is this someone who likes fantasy or likes sci-fi or likes nonfiction? Do they like romance or drama, thriller? You got to read these people a little bit in order to change how you address them. And so, like, for instance, looking at this other cover right here, this is for my book Bleed, Steam, and Steel. This is a hook for the book. I have almost never repeated these lines when telling other people about the story. So everything changed. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. A legendary general marched forth to end the 100-year Steam War. A young priestess undertook a quest to find her faith. A crippled spy risked everything for his country. And a firstborn warrior went to the furthest reaches of the world to save her family. So, cool for the back of the book. If I were to say that to a random stranger on the street, they'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? And so, when dealing with people that like I'm just talking to, I would say, okay, then. So I asked them, like, hey, so you like books. What do you think of steampunk? You like steampunk? Okay, you like steampunk? I got a steampunk story for you. You don't like steampunk? What do you like? Do you like thrillers? Do you like mystery? Do you like some political intrigue? Do you like romance? And if I find out that I've got some stuff that actually within this book, like for instance, Bleed, Steam, and Steel, that works really well for me, I'm like, you know what? Bleed, Steam, and Steel's got the adventure that you're looking for. We got 4 big adventures. We got Zemon, who's a crippled spy. Imagine that, a crippled spy in a Victorian world who has to go up against this nefarious Dr. Raven. And he does pretty well from his wheelchair. We've got Asuka, who is a firstborn warrior, think kind of samurai, who goes on all of these duels, these high-stake duels against other people throughout fantasy Japan in order to save her family from destitution. We've got General Arthur Wesley, who is going to end the 100-year Steam War by besieging basically steampunk Damascus. And so I go into some details about all that, and like, oh, actually, that does sound cool. There's a lot going on in your book. Oh, okay. And I show the artwork, and they're like, ooh, that's a sexy girl and a big machine. I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, she is. You should try out the book. Or if they're like, you know what, steampunk's not really my thing. I like rom-coms. I got a rom-com for you. Notice Me Senpai. What the heck? Like, yeah. So basically, this is a book that's based off of my sister misunderstanding a joke about Notice Me Senpai. But she's like, Notice Me Senpai? Okay. She's like, wait a second, this could be a story. What if there's a girl who misunderstood someone making an anime reference and decided to win the heart of the boy that she's crushing on by baking a pie? And the person's like, that sounds funny. Okay, tell me more about it. Oh, let me tell you more about the story. So, getting into a conversation with people, feeling out what they're interested in, gives you an idea of what kind of story you would tell them about, or how you would approach that story that you want them to give a chance and read. If you find out that someone does not like what you're pitching, it's okay to back off and say, hey, well, you know what? Thank you for listening to me. And then then maybe bring up something that you do share in common, a kind of story, or a story that you think that they might like. Say, yeah, there's like this one story that's really cool. And like, keep the conversation rolling, keep it positive. Don't abandon it just because someone doesn't want to read your story. I've been told multiple times by people they don't want to read my books. I'm like, oh, that's okay. And just keep on talking about stories, or find something that we have in common to keep talking about. And even if they don't then warm up to me and want to read my story, it remains positive. And I then don't have someone being like, that Lars Jensen, he sucks. He was so rude to me because I didn't want his book. Like, you want to avoid that. You seriously want to avoid that. Warren says this actually helps. I was looking to shorten it. Excellent. I hope that gives you some ideas. Because you know your story better, you'll definitely know what better things to point out in a shortened version of your blurb. Now, the last thing for tonight is this. Coming up with your plan for who you might tell your story about. Because depending on who you're talking to, again, you're going to approach pitching your story differently. For instance, if you think about talking to your parents, you're like, Mom, Dad, I want to be an author, a starving artist. Yeah. Is that like, no, like, Mom, Dad, I'm working on a story right now that I just really, really like. I just feel so energized. I'm pumped to tell the story of Chris and Susie going out on their first date. I'm so pumped to tell the story of a guy who lives in an oppressive regime. I'm so excited to tell a story about a crippled spy. Like, whatever it is. Like with your parents, you want to bring up how it's so fulfilling. Like that's something like show that it's a positive thing for your family to support you in writing. If you're talking with your English teacher, most English professionals look to the more dramatic stuff. And so you'd be all like, well, my story is dramatic, or it's not the typical stuff that we've read in school, but I think that you might like it, teacher, because I touch on this element that we've talked about in class. Sorry, I had to take another drink of water right there. Keep the whistle going, at least for as long as I can. I'll be honest, guys, I'm getting a little hungry, so I'll probably wrap up here real soon. But yeah, take a look here at this list, and think about how you would approach these different people if you want to talk to them about your book. And especially once you have published a story, or like once you're underway with production, talk with as many people as possible about what you're doing. I know it's embarrassing, and I know it's hard. Like, you guys get to hear me talk about all this stuff, tell all these crazy stories about my life, and I will admit I can be very outgoing, I can be very extrovert, but at the same time, like, you guys can hear this. I have a stutter. Sometimes that stutter is really bad. I can get flustered. Sometimes I'm shy. Sometimes I really don't want to talk to other people. It's just normal. Like, even a guy like me who can be outgoing, it can be embarrassing. It can be hard to talk to other people. But if you want to be a successful storyteller, you must, there's no way around this, you must become good at talking to other people. You must be able to connect. And that's rough sometimes. But the more that you work at it, the more that you practice on different people, especially people who are supportive of you, it will help you immensely. We got Christopher Rosa show up here. Personally, I think Dana Terrace is too good a writer to fall into the trap of making her show just one big spite story to Disney. Christopher, I absolutely hope so. It's a fear that I have, and it's a fear that other people have as well because of the way that the trailer comes across. However, I do hope that she pulls it off. But one thing that I like coming, this is, I know, a little bit of a tangent, but I did also point out that Dana's never had the chance. Liam never finished a project really before Murder Drones, at least none that I know of. Dana's never had the chance to finish a project on her own terms. So this will be all new territory for Dana. And I'm really excited to see how she handles that. Dana admitted that the Owl House started because she made the outline for the series out of spite because an executive said the series would never work, but the series came out great. But I believe that there will be a few takes who take that to Disney. The whole story won't just be bashing Disney. She's too good for that. And again, Christopher, I absolutely hope so. I hope that's the case. I want this series to succeed. So I'm excited to see what happens within 3 weeks. But coming back to the topic at hand, guys, please take a look here at this list, come back to this list, and think about how you would approach different people. And if you are ready and willing to get out of your own comfort zone, start talking to other people about the stories that you write. For those of us who are fan fiction authors, that is something where that might feel like really embarrassing. Here's a way that you can approach it, but that might not be necessarily embarrassing. Like, let's actually take the old lady. Let's say you're visiting an old folks' home, and some kind old lady rolls up to you or hobbles up to you and is like, "Hey, welcome. Who are you? What are you doing here? What do you do?" Because they want to talk. They want to have a conversation. And you can say, well, one of the things I'm right now doing is I'm right now writing a story. Let's take Cruzy. I'm right now writing a story about a human and their best dragon friend who world hop, who go into another world and go on these fantastic adventures where they're trying to seal these fountains that are emitting dark energy. Should that dark energy be cut off, it will And should that dark energy not be cut off, it will overwhelm the world and plunge it all into darkness. And it's like, oh, that's sweet. Like, you're not trying to convince the old lady necessarily to read your fanfic, but it's a way to like share the fanfic. Like, you don't have to say it's a fan fiction of a game. If, for instance, I'm talking with an old lady at an old folks' home, and she's like, "Well, dearie, what do you do for a living?" I can say, "I'm an author. I have self-published 11 books now, 12 books, hopefully by the end of the year, and these are the kinds of stories that I tell. I do romantic comedies. I really like telling fantasy stories, high fantasy, so it gets deep, goes into the politics, the economics, the world building, the magic. It's big, it's long, but I also tell other stories. Like I tell space pirate stories. I've got my own takes on fairy tales, and if she reacts to any of those in a positive way, I can then latch on and say, yeah, maybe your grandkids would really like my take on Puss in Boots. So, TV account says, I doubt I can do that. I can barely talk to my own mom for more than 5 sentences. Thank you, autism. Well, TV account, there are ways, though, around that. Because, again, if you want your story to get out to other people, you have to talk to others. Now then, let's consider, for instance, mangaka, the writers of manga. A lot of them do not get in front of the camera and talk directly to their audiences. And there's a lot of them who actually don't immediately go and interact with their fans and readers either, because they're either trying to preserve their anonymity because fans in Japan get nasty sometimes, or they're too shy. Or get too anxious. That's another thing. Or they're germaphobes. Some are autistic. In that case, however, they still communicate with other people. They communicate through artwork. They communicate through written word. They communicate by connecting with people online. And that works out for them. You have to find a way where you feel comfortable enough to put yourself out there. Like I said, it will always be uncomfortable at first. But as you find where you are able to communicate in the best way for yourself, you will begin to discover ways that you can share your stories with other people. It doesn't always have to be conventional face-to-face. Again, like I'm the outgoing guy that can do that. But at the same time, there are times like that I also brought up that I don't always feel that way. Sometimes I communicate to people through live streams like this. I don't see you. I'm just looking at my computer screen. Other times, I'm writing online. Other times, it's simply a business card. Finding out how you can speak and connect with other people is very important. Because again, if you can't connect with other people, you're going to find it so hard to share your story with anyone, which is why it's a must. You must learn how to communicate. But just because you, TV account, don't feel comfortable talking with someone face-to-face doesn't mean that you can't communicate in another way that helps to tell people about your stories. You just have to get a little creative. So I hope that helps. Conquer says, yeah, Lars, from what I know, Liam never finished a story before. Even his old analog horror stories from his old scary story time with Liam way back were mostly unfinished. To the point, many of his analog horror concepts were reused in Murder Drones. Oh, yeah, he definitely repurposed a lot of his old stuff for Murder Drones. Hey, Lars, the whole talking about fanfic ideas. My idea for explaining outside of fanfic spaces is to explain it more essential and standalone concepts without using fandom terms. That's a great way of approaching it. Concraft, from what I heard, Japan internet culture can get rough. Oh, yes. Apparently, I heard theories that many of the stereotypical internet a-hole behaviors started in Japan's online spaces. I bet that they at least definitely found home there. Yikes. Yeah, because the Japanese are so reserved that when they find a space where they can be more expressive, sometimes the worst comes out of them. It's part of their society. So, again, think about lists of people that you could communicate with, how you would approach them. Door-to-door salesman who pretends to care about you. I get this all the time. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm an author. Oh, cool, man. What do you write? And then I'm all like, I know you don't care. And like for a door-to-door salesman, I'm like, because I don't really want to listen to your pitch, I am going to overwhelm you with so much detail, so you leave me alone. Or you end up really liking what I'm putting down, and then you buy a copy of my book. Hey, yo, it's a win-win. I either sell a book or I get rid of you. So yeah, think about different people you could talk to about your stories and how you might approach those individual people. That will really, really help you out. And again, TV accounts, especially for you, think about people that you could reach out to. If you want to reach out to us here at Camille's Harem and pitch your stories, do that. Get some experience under your belt. Or you go into good forums, no shady biz, and communicate with people there, like on a friendly Reddit page or in a friendly Discord server. Places like that, you can gain experience and learn how you can interact with people online that might help you then find more confidence and find good creative ways to reach out to other people. Comcraft says, I will try to explain one fanfic idea I had a while back that I still can't do due to having yet to finish watching that show, but written in more general terms. Can I try? By all means, go ahead and try. And that's actually the last thing right here. Practice makes perfect. Again, by the end of this lesson, by the end of tonight, you will not know how to perfectly pitch your story. Not at all. But hopefully you now have some ideas and you better understand how you can come about it so that way you can get better. You can practice and get your stories out there. Great Koi says, when it comes to family members, there's my uncle and auntie who are both casual readers and creative minds despite liking different genres. That's awesome. That's actually really awesome. So hopefully you have that chance then to like talk to them and be like, hey, here's some of my stories and get their feedback. That's always great when you can have a discussion and not just simply talk at a person about your story. Wonder, I admit I almost cried when you read my blurb, just a taste of someone wanting to read it. Wonder, it is amazing. It's one of the best feelings when you know that someone has read your story and liked it. Even if you never sell any more than one copy, just knowing that there's someone out there who read your story and is like, I love this. It just feels so good. I've got a reader who is very slowly going through my Monarch Mercenaries book. And every now and then they come back and comment. They're all like, man, I love this part. It's so much fun. And I'm like, yes, you're enjoying my book. Thank you. Also, like reading the positive reviews for Tumble Teller is just so good. And knowing that there's a guy who loved my book, Bleed, Steam, and Steel, so much that he wants to do the recording for the entire book, like he wants to do the audiobook for me, is just like, that's flabbergasting to me. And it's just so fulfilling. I think that's probably the best word I could give. It's not just happy and wonderful. It's fulfilling. It's that moment that you realize that all the work that you put into that story, it's not just alive for you anymore, but it's now alive for someone else. And that's just such a great feeling. And fan fiction is fun, yeah. Fan fiction is fun. Fan fiction can be informative. Fan fiction is a great release. I used to write way more fan fiction. I don't so much anymore because I got now so many of my own stories that I want to tell. That being said, I do need to finish my fan fiction for the crossover between the Owl House, Amphibia, and Gravity Falls. I intend to finish that. I will finish that. And after Deltarune chapters 3 and 4, there's a couple of short fanfics that I would love to write for Des and Azrael, and maybe for some other things as well. Hey, Shade is here. You got your kind of towards the end of the stream there, buddy, but it's great to have you on. Great to have you on board. Let's see here. One says, I hope you like it when it's released. Also, I can send you the finished first draft on Discord if you want to see it. Hey, wonder if you want to do that. I would love to check it out. Conquer says, a man called Alex one day finds himself in a magical land, turned into a vampire with a talent for super speed. He felt quite good, only to realize over time that he has been in this land for 100 so years, and has been quite insane from power. Interesting. Okay. So if I then say interesting, then that's kind of your invitation to be like, okay, a little bit more. a little bit more. You don't want, like, if someone's like, okay, that sounds interesting, don't unload everything about your book on them. Be like, okay, they said interesting. You might then you might then be like, yeah, no, it's really cool, but like based off of just what I said right there, what do you think would be really interesting? What do you already suspect about my story? Like, ask them. And if they're like, well, I don't really know, I'm like, then you might want to try reading more. Or if they say, well, based off of what you've just said right there. So like someone who's engaged with you, Concraft, might say, okay, so did he not realize that 100 years have passed? And then you can then say, oh, well, yes or no, or like, yeah, no, that's part of the mystery. And like, oh, okay, cool. And then you can explain a little bit more from there. TV account started watching BoJack Horseman, and wow, it's crazy so far. Yeah, BoJack Horseman. If you haven't watched it, strap yourself in. Well, Shay, even though you might have missed most of the stream, should still be up, so you'll be able to enjoy it later. Excuse me. All right. Maybe somebody wiped his memory. That could be the case. It could be the case. Wow, it's so hard to not go overboard. Exactly. It's so easy and so hard. It's so easy to go overboard. It's so hard to stop yourself. Which is why practice really does help. And so again, it's about interacting with that. It's about interacting with the other person. You want to encourage them to interact with you, to ask questions, or to think about what you're throwing at them. So that way, they might, as they think more about it, they might think, this could really be worth my time. Sure, I'll check it out. And that's the way. That's really the way that you want to go. So, just send it on Discord. Awesome. I look forward to reading it. Like, I got to definitely do better at balancing my time for reading. I've been spending so much time with just so many other projects, and it's just incredibly overwhelming. Also, on top of that, I got other things I got to work on still tonight. It's going to be a long work day still. Shay says, I have an advice. Bring yourself a doll and think it's a person, and try all you like my story. There's the small things. Concraft asks, have you checked Hunter the Parenting? I watched the first episode, and I watched most of the follow-up. I have not watched beyond that yet, but that was fun. That was demented and funny and surprisingly spooky in a few places. I really like the interaction with real world lore and bringing some spooky logic to it. D is insane, but he's the kind of insane that you enjoy listening to, that you enjoy following along. Any progress on No Evil so far? I'm Omega. The answer there is no. It's been so slow. The only reason why I even got around to Hunter the Parenting was that I pulled it up. I immediately watched a little bit of it that night last week. I have not gotten to it since, because I have been so busy. So that's that's my answer. I want to finish No Evil. It honestly is about creating the free time for me to do so. Right now, I really don't have that much free time because this is not me being like, oh, this is not worth it, but I'm right now working on getting 2 books ready for querying. So again, to sending to publishers. Granted, it's very much in the early phases, so don't expect anything anytime soon. But it means that if I want to get these books ready, I have to finish them. And I need to finish them within a certain amount of time this year, because next year I am going to be focusing on really taking it home with The Legend of the Ten Lords, getting those last 2 books ready, because the 4th book should come out this year. So that means books 5 and 6 need to be ready for publishing in the next 2 years. Then I'm getting ready to do the sequels to The Monarch Mercenaries and Bleed Steam and Steel, plus then also doing the sequel to Tumble Teller. That's a lot of writing. And then plus on top of that, doing all of the YouTube stuff and trying to keep YouTube alive. Because right now, things are going really well for us here on the channel. But the moment that you begin pulling it back, YouTube immediately punishes you, which sucks. And I need to at one point just take the punishment. But on top of that, I am trying to get the next Deltarune analysis up and going. I lost an entire week last week, which has just really set me back. And then, yeah, there's all this list of stuff. Add on to that, having a job, then taking care of family. When you bring all those things together, you begin to realize that, yeah, there's just, wow, where do you find the time? Because then when you do find the time, you're just exhausted. And this is why one of my greatest bits of writing advice is know your schedule. Going back 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, if you want to write, if you want to take this seriously, you need to know your schedule. You need to take into account how much time you spend on every little thing, because you will be surprised how quickly life gobbles up all your free time. And there's so much that I want to get to. There's so much that I want to enjoy and just relax with. But that relaxing time means that it's also not time I'm working. And unfortunately, the reason why I'm working so hard now is because I screwed up big time at the beginning of this year and kept kicking the can down the road for 3 months. And then just wasting time away where I shouldn't have. And so that's why it's been taking so long, even with doing stuff that's enjoyable. So know your schedule. Take account of everything that you do. If you can't make a good schedule for yourself as a creator, you will find yourself always overwhelmed. So it's not so much that I hope that things get better, Concraft. It's more like, Lars, get your life in order and stop overwhelming yourself. So that's something that I just need to do. And again, and the crazy thing is that some people point out, like, dude, no one really holds you accountable for any of your timelines, which is true. But there's so much that I want to do that I hold myself accountable, because I am bursting at the seams with ideas, with stories, with things that I want to create. And I have to get better at telling myself no. There's already tons of projects I've told myself no. But, and I need to get better at telling myself more no often. But there's other things that I'm just like, I just want to do it so bad. And I'm just so happy when I get to create these things. But if I overwhelm myself, it runs you down. So it's about finding that balance. And that's something I'm still working on, is finding that balance. Which is why I make it a point. I don't bring it up because I'm a master at it. I bring it up because I know what it's like to not have your life in order. Omega shared a blurb. Chip, the newest recruit for the Martian group, the Cross-Planetary Defense Force, aspires to be a hero like his older brother through taking on the Genesis, a terrorist militia. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. Wonder, yes, ADHD struggles, saying no to myself. Yep, it's hard. So, Shade says, don't be angry with yourself if you're not able to do whatever you want. You must live life, enjoy your life. Exactly. I need to give myself more time to just enjoy things. But again, if I want to be able to do all the things I want to do, then I have to right now put in the work, especially because, like, when Christmas time rolls around, I just want to be able to check out, be like, guys, it's Christmas time, I'm putting up my lights, I'm putting up the tree, and I am just having a fun time. And that's what I want to do. And so in order to do that, that means put in the work now, plan, and so that way you can, at the right time, take that long break. But in the meantime, give yourself your own small breaks when you can. Like today, I took breaks. I took some breaks to talk about the trailer for Knights of Guinevere on Discord. I took a break to do laundry, which needed to be done, but sometimes it's relaxing. Took a break to water my garden, which is something that I always enjoy doing. And I'm going to take a break after this and eating to go on a walk, because that's healthy and it's a good thing to do. So give yourself breaks. Don't destroy yourself within the day. Eey. All right, so everyone, with all that being said, it's time for me to move on. I'm going to eat a very late dinner. Thank you guys so much for being here, for all of your input, for your insights, your encouragement, everything. It was great talking about Knights of Guinevere. So looking forward to it in 3 weeks, and also talking about writing. We'll have more in upcoming videos real soon. So until then, y'all, tschüss.